Hi everyone, welcome to Tom's Manshed. Now today's video is on an update to the Hikvision Colorvu cameras, and it's an update a lot of people, including myself, have been waiting for. What it enables you to do is to trigger the built-in white light with movement, and it's something people have been asking for since they came out basically. Now just check up here on the full video on the Colorvu cameras, which fully tests them, goes through an install of them, tests the microphones, compares them to other cameras, tests them day and night and everything. But what this is about is, like I said, that update. Now, it's only for the Generation 2 cameras. Now, unfortunately, that video I did, and I've only got, if you look on here, this is the box from the G1. You can see there on the side G1, and if you look at the date there under 4 megapixel, it's only a year old, March 2020. But this update that I'm going to be doing this video about isn't for the G1s, unfortunately, only for the Generation 2. Now, I have just bought a Generation 2 camera to add to my existing 3. So I've got 3 Generation 1 Colorvus and 1 Generation 2 Colorvu, and an old turret camera which still uses infrared at night. But the great thing, if you don't know about the Colorvu cameras, is at night they are just unbelievable. The amount, they only need a tiny bit of light, moonlight even, very weak street lights, to give them a view that's almost like daylight. It really is unbelievable till you see it. Like I say, check out that other video. So as you can see here on the front, they don't have an infrared emitter because they just don't need an infrared emitter. They're that good at night. But what they do have is a little white light, 2 LEDs, which sends out just a normal white LED light. Now at the moment, before this new firmware came out, you could only trigger that with either a time. You could set it to come on at a certain time and go off at a certain time, i.e. when it gets dark, or to be triggered by light. So as soon as the light sensor inside senses it's going dark, it would bring that light on. But the trouble with that is it's going to be on for hours at a time all through the night, which wouldn't go down well with most neighbours, I don't think, with the light coming on all the time. What you want is something that's been triggered by motion. So if you've got an intruder coming up your drive, it will trigger that light to come on. Like I said, it's good enough to pick stuff up without that, but if you're in absolute total pitch blackness, it's a really worthwhile addition. And also, that light will make the person look up at the camera and you get a better look at their face. So yeah, it's been a long time waited for. But unfortunately not available on the G1 update. As far as I can ascertain, the only difference between the G1 and G2 is the firmware. The whole spec of the camera, the megapixels, the sensitivity, everything seems to be the same. So why they can't implement this in an update to the Generation 1 firmware, I don't know. But that, as I'll show you shortly, that update isn't available. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you where to download the firmware from, how to install it, show you the 2 screens with the option for the to turn on the light with movement before and after, to show you how it appears, and then I'm going to thoroughly test it at night, show you the difference with it on and off, and show you the various triggering routines. So as usual with my videos, it's going to be quite a long one. I do apologise if you found that the video is too long. I'm going to put the YouTube timeline thing on the bottom so you can skip to the bit you need. But I do make mine sort of slow and methodical when I'm installing the firmware. I mean, I see a lot of videos and they're going through, right, click here, click here, click there, click there, and you've got to slow it down and freeze frame because they're going so fast. They assume you are totally fluent with the things. Whereas I'm not totally fluent with them. I'm only at the very peak of understanding of network CCTV. So I'm going to go through it dead slow. So like I say, speed it up if you do want to, and cut out this waffling. So before we get into where to download the firmware from, I'll just show you how it is now before I've updated the firmware, and show you that that option to control the light by movement is not there before I update this firmware. Okay, so I thought I'd just add as well, you will notice during the bits of this video where it's showing you the screen and how to download stuff and that things do appear a bit squashed up. The reason is that I've got an ultra wide monitor, so when I use my screen capture software, it captures the whole screen and then makes it look like a sort of CinemaScope type thing. So I've had to sort of crush it up to get it to the 1920 by 1080 format. So hopefully everything will be clear enough to follow along. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to show you what the menu looks like before we update the camera to the new firmware, and you'll see that the option to enable the light to be triggered by motion is not there. So first of all, I'll start from the very beginning. You probably know how to get into your camera configuration, but just in case you don't, you can skip this bit if you like. This is the actual screen of your NVR. So starting from the NVR on live view, again, a little tip, I'll mention it here. Again, you may already know this, but I used to click on these, select a segment, and then click on that segment and which camera I want to see in which segment and things. But if you just want to see them all, if you click down here at the very bottom where it says Start All Live View, if you click there, all your cameras will boot up and self-populate themselves in the available slots. So it took me a while to find that feature, but like I say, you may be aware of it. Now, these are my 5 cameras. Apologies, first of all, for the state of the backyard. I've still got a trailer full of rubbish waiting to go to the tip. We're in lockdown 2 now in the UK. I'm recording this in March 2021. As soon as things get back to normal and getting rid of this trailer and giving the back a proper tidy up. So anyway, back to the video. So here's our live view on our NVR. But like I say, we need to get into the actual camera configuration of the particular camera we're updating the firmware. You can't do it from this NVR. You've got to get into the camera itself. So we click on here on the top, configuration. And then if we click here on the right, we click, close this down first. What we want to click is System and then Camera Management. So this is our cameras. So this is my only G2 camera. I've got 3 G1s, the front west, the front east, and the back. They're all the earlier G1 model. The garage one is still the old turret camera with infrared black and white at night. All this is shown in the other video I did, the main video on the colour views. But the one we're trying to update, or we are going to update today, is this, the side car. So if we click on that, so this is now getting into the actual camera itself. And if we click our password in there, and open up the camera. So this is the live view of that one camera. So make that a bit bigger. So now we're in the configuration of the camera. We've got all these on the right, which don't concern us. It's not a pan, tilt, zoom camera or anything. But again, we want to get into the configuration of this camera. So if we click that, and we want to check first. So if we check system settings, we will see this camera at the moment is on firmware v5.5 134 build 200430. So that'll be like 30th of April 20 last year. That is the existing firmware I've got. That's the same firmware it came with when I bought it at the end, I think it was the end of last year. So I will show you first, before we update the firmware, I will show you how the menu looks at the moment. So if we click there on event and just leave it on basic event, and we click, sorry about that noise, it was the air freshener going off. If we click linkage method here, first of all, area settings. This green box is just the area I've set up in the NVR. So in your NVR, when you're setting all your little red boxes to not pick up movement or whatever, that represents that. There are more in Smart Event, I'll show you very shortly, that you can set up. But if we click here, linkage method, so this is saying that when it detects movement in that area, what do you want it to do as well as record? Do you want it to send you an email? Obviously not, you'll be getting non-stop emails. Notify the surveillance centre. Don't know why that's ticked, I'm going to untick that. I haven't got, that's if you've got to link in with an alarm and you can notify a monitored alarm system, saying that, or you could upload it to memory cards. None of that applies to me, so I'll save that. And as you can see, you've only got them three options. There is no option to turn on the light when it detects movement, and that's the one that will appear with once we install the new software. Okay, so as you saw there, with the older firmware, you haven't got that option to control the light with movement at all. So let's download the firmware, and I'll show you where to download and how to do it and install it, and then I'll show you that option does appear. Okay, so this is the website where you download the firmware from. Now, Hikvision don't make things easy. As I've mentioned before, I just love the hardware, but their firmware and trying to get the right firmware and browse their websites, it can be a nightmare at sometimes. So there's all sorts of Hikvision Global, there's Hikvision UK, Ireland, and all sorts. But this is the website you want, the hikvisioneurope.com/UK/portal. It's this download portal where you get all the firmwares from. So I will put a link to this site, this page that I'm on now, that I'm starting at now, in the description below the video, and I'll also put a link direct to the page we're going to get to very shortly. But this is where I just thought I'd show you this, where we start from for any future firmware updates. So if we first of all click here on Portal, and it takes a while to open, see it's thinking about it up here. And we want product firmware, obviously, Hikvision, and see this, you know, I mean, front ends, back ends. I mean, why call them that? I mean, cameras and NVRs would be much easier, but the front ends means the camera, and the back end is the actual recorder, the DVR or the NVR. So it's a camera we're after. So if we click on front ends, and we want the IP camera, the Internet Protocol camera, and we're after the firmware for the G2 version. So again, here we are, we've got G1, G1 plus M, and then it jumps to G3. So you think, well, where's the G2? But it's this G3 platform is the one we're after. If you've got any of the earlier generation 1 Colorvu cameras like I have, I've still got 3 of, it's this one here. And you can see the cameras are numbered to the Colorvu ones I showed in the other video are 2CD2347. So you've got your 2 2347 that would fit. So that's for the G1 ones. Now, as you can see, that firmware only goes up to 2019. The last release of that was August the 6th, 2019. This is the number of your new Colorvu cameras, 2-7G2, which is the camera I have got. So it's the G3 platform, and as you can see, that was released March this year, 2021. So if we click on that G3 platform, again, top corner, it's thinking about it. And these are the various releases. So obviously we want to go for the most current one, which the only 2021 one is this down here, and that's build 5.516. And this will be referring to the date, so 21/01/08. So I'm assuming this came out January the 8th or something like that. It's on here as the 5th of whatever, but it's the only 2021 one, so we know that's the one. So that's the latest one, giving us the facility we'll want. Now if you click here on the PDF, you can download the PDF here for future keeping, but if you just want to click on it and have a read, you can have a read of all this. I won't go through it all here, but if you look down what it says, the bit we're interested in, where is it? I think I missed it. Yeah, here. The 6 events of Colorvu devices, including alarm, blah, 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 blah. The linkage of the light, line crossing detection and region, support the linkage of the light. When the event is triggered, the supplement light will turn on. The supplement light strategy is, and it tells you all the things you can do. So that's confirming that this firmware has the addition of turning the light on when triggered by movement. So that's the PDF to read up, but here is the actual firmware. So if we click on that, and I'm on Firefox, so this save box has appeared, but whatever if you're on Google Chrome or whatever, it'll be different. So click save now, and that's saving it up here. Sorry, it's only a 75 megabyte file, but so we'll come back when that is finished. Okay, we've just got a couple of seconds left now. It's been about 5 minutes just downloading 75 megs, so really slow connection. On the desktop now, I'm going to create a folder and just call it something like G2 firmware. Okay, so we'll now paste that firmware that we've just downloaded in there, and if we click extract here, so this is the actual update for the firmware, this digicap.dav that we need, and that's what we're going to be installing now. So we'll do that. Okay, so we've now downloaded the firmware. So I'll go through it now, step by step, quite slowly as well, on how to actually install it. Okay, so we're going to start from here. So we're in the NVR now, on the configuration, and we've got all the cameras listed. So like I say, we have to be in the actual camera itself to update the firmware, obviously. And the only G2 camera, as I explained before, that I've got is this. So if we click on that and get into the camera itself, so we're now in the actual camera. If we click on configuration, And if we click on system settings first, we can check at the moment our current firmware is this version 5.5134 build 200430. So that almost certain will probably be 30th of April 2020 last year, because we're in 2021 now. So that's our existing firmware. We'll obviously check back on that after we've updated to see it has indeed updated. So from there, click here on the left on maintenance. So if we click maintenance, we've got all these down here, and what we want, we're upgrading the firmware. It's already on that, gives you choice there, but we're upgrading firmware. So if we click browse and we go to that folder on our desktop, which was here, G2 firmware, and it's that the bit we've unzipped, the .dav file. So that's it, that has appeared there now, and we're going to click upgrade. At the bottom it says the upgrading process will be 1 to 10 minutes. Please don't disconnect power to the device during the process. The device reboots automatically after upgrading. So I always sort of like hate this bit. If ever, I don't think I've ever had a firmware upgrade go wrong. I may have done on something, but it always fills me with trepidation, this. But so click upgrade. Here we go. Device will reboot automatically after upgrading. Continue. Okay. So it's now installing that firmware. So as soon as it's done that, I'm obviously not going to show you all 10 minutes. We'll come back as it's getting up to sort of like 99%. Okay, we're up to 97%. It's been about 3 minutes, I would imagine. Seems about 3 minutes. 99% now. Rebooting. So obviously all this time just don't do anything, just sit waiting. Okay, so that was about, after that rebooting screen, it was about another sort of 2 or 3 minutes rebooting, and this has suddenly appeared now. It's rebooted and it's got back into the login screen, so fingers crossed it worked. And we're doing this live. I've not already done this or anything, so let's re-log in to that camera. I'm assuming the password has stayed the same and not reverted back to Hikvision's 1234 password or whatever. So we'll just have to see. I'm just typing in my normal password. Yep, so it's just, it retains your password. Restore. Now, I saw one video saying click restore default there, go back to default settings. I'm not going to for the moment. I'm just going to see what's what first. So first of all, I'm going to click system settings and check the firmware. And yep, the firmware has updated. Version 5.5 160 build 210108. So that's going to be 8th of January 2021. So we are on the latest firmware. So let's see if we notice a difference in that screen. So we'll click event here. A linkage method, fingers crossed. And yeah, as we can see there, look, LED light. That has now appeared. As I showed you before, that wasn't in it. It was just these 3 items here. Right, so like I say, we've now got this extra option here, the LED light. And if we're on basic event, all that means is it's just going to, if we click area settings, that's the main setting I've got. So it detects that for movement and starts recording. So if we just select the linkage method and click LED light, it will come on when it detects movement in any of that area. But you may want the light just come on at certain areas, and for that you'd use this smart event setting there. Click linkage method, and then these extra things here at the top have opened up, and like I say, you can click intrusion detection there. I'm going to go into this in more detail in part 2, but as you can see, we can draw areas, and I'll explain what this minimum and maximum size are and that, and what these yellow boxes are. I'll go through all that in part 2 of this video, but basically this video is just how to install the firmware and to prove that it does get installed. So watch out for part 2 of this video for full details and nighttime footage of me doing all these. I'll be walking up and down the drive and showing you the light going off and stuff like that. Okay, so there you have it. That just ran you through the download and the installation of the firmware. Now, I was going to put all the testing of the light coming on and off at night as I trigger it and stuff like that on this video as well, but I realised it would have been getting to probably over an hour in length, and it's long enough with me waffling at the moment. So we're up to about half an hour. So I'm going to put that in part 2. So we'll just leave this as the install of the video and install of the firmware video, and all how to set the extra settings. Like I say, you may not have used the skimmed over it just now, but you can draw that yellow line. You can draw certain areas where it'll only come on if it's triggered within that area, which might be handy for the light that you didn't use before. It is for me. I use that big green area to trigger recordings, but I don't want the light coming on in all instances, so I'll be drawing a little figure on there and showing you exactly how to do that. So look out for that in part 2 coming up very, very soon. I hope this video has been of some use. If you do find them interesting and you do want to subscribe, please do so. Please click the little icon of the shed here on the left, and you'll be informed when I upload a new video. Like I said, part 2 will be coming within a week or so once I've done all the recording of the nighttime testing, and I hope this has been of some interest to you. So thanks for watching. See you for the next one. Bye for now.